The fluorescent lights in the sub-basement hummed like a tired choir. Ethan Brooks had learned to work with the sound in his ears and the smell of machine oil in his lungs. It meant the building was alive. It meant he still had a job. He hunched over an open elevator control panel, wires spilling out in neat color-coded bundles. The metal edge cut into his forearm as he reached in, but he hardly noticed. His thumb traced the worn label on a relay before snapping it into place. The LED flickered from red to green. "That should do it," he muttered. Behind him, a hydraulic pump kicked on somewhere in the dark belly of Aurora Tower. Steel and cables went to work, lifting people he would never meet to floors he had never seen. Brooks, you married to that panel, or you coming up for air at some point?" Ray called from the next bay. His voice bounced off concrete and pipe. "In a second," Ethan replied. "You said that 10 minutes ago." Ethan glanced at the cheap plastic watch on his wrist. It was exactly 3:14. School let out at 3:30. "5," he called back. "Give me 5. He did not need to see Ray to know the other man was rolling his eyes. "One of these days, that kid's gonna fire you for being late, not the boss." "She already threatened," Ethan said, snapping the cover closed with a soft click. He gathered his tools, coiled the lines that had snaked onto the floor. His movements were automatic, made precise by repetition and the quiet pressure of a schedule that was always just a little too tight. By the time he clocked out and jogged up the concrete stairs to the ground level, the hum of the sub-basement had faded behind him. Seattle air hit him in a cool, damp rush. The sky was a flat gray lid. It smelled like rain and exhaust. Aurora Tower rose to his left, all glass and steel, a slender column reaching into the low clouds. Its mirrored sides reflected the city back on itself, 100 blurred versions of the same skyline. He never looked at it for long. Ethan crossed the street to the parking lot, climbed into the dented gray sedan that had carried him through the worst 3 years of his life, and turned the key. The engine coughed, then settled into a shaky rhythm. He checked the time again, 3:18. If traffic behaved, he would make it. The elementary school sat 6 blocks away, tucked between a laundromat and a coffee shop that always smelled like burnt beans. Parents were already clustered near the gates, clutching umbrellas and paper cups. Ethan parked crookedly along the curb and jogged the last few yards. A bell rang sharp and clear, cutting through street noise. The doors opened. Children spilled out in colorful waves, backpacks swinging, voices high and bright. "Lily," he called. For a second, there were only strangers. Then a small figure with a purple backpack and a too-big hoodie broke away from the crowd and barreled toward him. "Dad?" She hit his chest with more force than her size should allow. Ethan staggered back half a step and wrapped his arms around her, breathing in the scent of crayons and the fruity shampoo his mother insisted on buying. "You are exactly on time," she announced, leaning back to inspect him. 2 minutes early, actually." "That's so?" he asked. "You start carrying a stopwatch now." Lily held up her wrist where a rubber bracelet with a cartoon cat faced him. "Internal clock. Very advanced." He smiled. It was a small thing, but it loosened something tight in his chest. "How was school?" he asked as they walked back to the car. "Loud. Miss Harper said we are starting a unit on architecture. I drew something." She wrestled her backpack around and fished out a sheet of slightly crumpled paper. On it, in bold marker lines, stood a towering castle. It had high walls and too many towers, each one topped with a flag that leaned to one side. A dragon curled around the base, big-eyed and oddly gentle. "This one is yours," she said, tapping the dragon with her finger, "because you fix things." "You think dragons fix things?" Ethan asked. "This one does," she said, serious. "He keeps the walls from falling down." "And who lives in the castle?" Lily shrugged. "Someone who likes being high up, I guess." Ethan folded the drawing carefully and handed it back. "It's good," he said. "Really good. I want to see a real tower," she added as they reached the car. "One of the big ones, not just from far away." Ethan paused with his hand on the door handle. Across the street, Aurora Tower gleamed faintly through the mist, its upper floors lost in low clouds. "You see that one every day?" he said. "Isn't that real enough?" "I mean inside," she insisted, "like the top, where the rich people work. Miss Harper says she saw the CEO on TV, Victoria Hale. She said Victoria built all that." Lily pointed to the tower with a small, reverent gesture. Ethan slid into the driver's seat. "Some people build," he said. "Some people keep it from breaking down." "You're a builder too," she said as she buckled herself in. "Just different." He did not argue. The light ahead of them turned green and traffic lurched forward. On the way home, they passed a digital billboard that loomed over the intersection. It showed a photograph of Victoria Hale in a dark blazer, arms folded, city lights blurred behind her. A headline marched across the bottom in white letters, "The Woman Redefining Finance." Lily pressed her forehead to the window glass. "She looks like a queen," she said. On the billboard, Victoria's eyes were sharp. Her expression said she belonged exactly where she was. Ethan reached out and adjusted the rearview mirror, angling it so he did not have to look at the billboard any longer than necessary. At his mother's house, the porch light was already on, even though it was not yet dark. The old two-bedroom sagged a little in the middle, like it was tired but holding on. The gutter above Lily's window was clogged again. He noticed the damp streaks on the siding that crept down like tear tracks. "Gran made lasagna," Lily announced as she bounded up the steps. "She put extra cheese because I asked." "That explains the suspicious smell," Ethan said. Inside the house was warm, filled with the clatter of dishes and the faint hum of a television in the living room. His mother appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "You're cutting it close again," she said, but her tone was more habit than scold. "Traffic," he replied. "It is always traffic." Lily had already vanished down the hallway to her room. Her drawings covered one wall taped in messy rows. Castles mostly. Some had dragons. Some had shapes that might be towers or trees. After dinner, after his mother had fallen asleep in her chair, with the TV murmuring low, Ethan sat on the edge of Lily's bed and listened to her talk herself toward dreams. She held a flashlight under the blanket, illuminating a new sketch. The castle on this one was taller, with a long glass tower that looked suspiciously like Aurora. "This one has elevators," she said, "so people don't get tired climbing." "Smart," he said. "Who lives up there this time?" "The princess," Lily replied, then hesitated. "And the dragon, but he just watches, he doesn't burn stuff." "Good arrangement." He turned off the flashlight and set it on the nightstand. In the dim glow from the hallway, her face softened, lashes dark against her cheeks. "Dad," she murmured. "Yeah. Do you like your job?" He thought of the hum of the sub-basement, the chill in the concrete, the steady repetition of doors opening and closing above his head. He thought of the tower across the street, all that glass and light. "It pays," he said, "and it lets me be here every night to turn off your flashlight." She seemed to accept that. Within minutes, her breathing evened out. Ethan stepped out into the hall and pulled the door almost closed, leaving it open just enough for light to slip through. He moved to the front window and pushed the curtain back. In the distance beyond rooftops and telephone wires, Aurora Tower cut into the gray sky. Its top floors were lit tiny squares of gold against the mist. From this far away, it did look a little like a castle Lily might draw, perched above everything unreachable. He watched it for a moment, then let the curtain fall and turned away. The next morning, Ethan woke to the sound of rain ticking against the bedroom window. Seattle had settled back into its usual gray, the kind that blurred edges and made everything feel a little farther away. He dressed quietly in his blue work shirt and heavy boots, moving through the narrow hallway without waking Lily. His mother was already in the kitchen, stirring something on the stove that smelled like oatmeal and too much cinnamon. "You are early," she said without turning. "That is new." "Got a full schedule," he answered, pouring coffee into a chipped mug. "Full schedules mean overtime. Overtime is good." He thought of the gutter over Lily's window and the dark stain that crept down the wall when it rained hard. Overtime was good. By the time he reached Aurora Tower, the streets glistened. The building rose above him, its glass sides catching the faint light like a cold mirror. Inside the lobby was all marble and controlled air security guards in dark uniforms, muted conversation echoing off high ceilings. Ethan swiped his badge at the employee turnstile and headed for the service elevator at the back. His reflection followed him in the stainless steel doors. Dark hair that needed a cut, a face that had forgotten how to look. Surprised, a name patch over his chest that most people never bothered to read. On B2, the familiar hum greeted him. Pipes rattled faintly overhead, and the air smelled of oil and dust. He crossed to the small glass office where his supervisor Morales sat behind a desk cluttered with printouts and coffee rings. Morales did not look up right away. His eyes were on the monitor, a spreadsheet of work tickets in tight rows. "You are in early," Morales said. "Seems to be the theme today." Morales tapped a few keys, then glanced at Ethan. His expression was a mix of annoyance and something else Ethan could not place. "We got a special one for you," Morales said. "Came through the system about half an hour ago." He clicked, and Ethan's name popped up on the screen beside a new entry. "Unit Suite 5101, Srandi," Morales read. Issue climate control panel not responding. Priority high. Location executive level. Ethan frowned. Executive level, that is what it says. That has to be a mistake. We never get up there. They have their own tech team. Morales shrugged. Ticket came from Central. System assigned it to you. You want to argue with the system, be my guest. The joke fell flat. Ethan studied the monitor again. The number glowed on the screen. 5101. It sounded less like a room and more like a code for a place he was not meant to touch. You ever been up there? He asked. Morales snorted. I have 3 kids and a mortgage. I go as far as 30. All the air feels the same after that. You sure it is not supposed to go to building systems? Brooks, if I reassign a high-priority executive ticket without a damn good reason, someone upstairs asks why. I do not like when upstairs asks why. Ethan hesitated. You got a problem with altitude, Morales added. No, Ethan said. Just not used to fresh carpet. Morales slid a tablet across the desk. The work order glowed on the screen, details crisp and official. Suite 5101, climate panel, high priority. Sign it, Morales said, and try not to break anything expensive. The ride up felt different. The elevator that served the executive floors moved smoother than the service cars he maintained. The panel gleamed without a single scratch, and the floor indicator climbed quickly. 20, 30, 40. Ethan watched the numbers change, feeling every story stack itself beneath his feet. When the door slid open at 51, the air seemed quieter, thicker somehow. The hallway stretched out in both directions, carpet soft beneath his boots. Light spilled from recessed fixtures, warm and even with none of the flicker he was used to down below. Abstract art in heavy frames lined the walls. There was no hum of machinery here, no clang of pipes, just the soft hush of distant ventilation and the occasional muted ring of a phone behind some closed door. He checked the tablet. Suite 5101 showed on the map at the corner of the executive wing a right turn, then another right. As he walked, he became acutely aware of his boots leaving faint damp marks on the carpet. The smell of coffee and polished wood hung in the air. Somewhere unseen, a printer whirred and clicked. He stopped in front of 5101. The door was a simple panel of light wood, the number in discreet silver. No nameplate. The kind of door that assumed everyone who arrived there already knew what it was. For a moment, Ethan stood still listening. Nothing. No voices, no movement. He lifted his hand and knocked twice. Silence. He waited, counting in his head. 10 seconds, 15, 20. He knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. He glanced at the tablet. The ticket blinked patiently. High priority. No additional notes. No mention of access restrictions. Climate panel, he reminded himself. In and out. He tried the handle. It turned easily beneath his palm. No resistance. No beep of an access denial. The door opened. The suite was larger than his mother's entire house. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a view of the city, draped in clouds the bay, a thin silver line in the distance. Light poured over a long glass desk, low couch as a shelf of hardcover books that all looked new. A pair of black heels stood abandoned near the sofa, slightly turned, as if someone had stepped out of them in a hurry. His eyes reached the center of the room and stopped. A woman stood halfway between the desk and a walk-in closet, her back angled toward him. The top half of a dark dress hung open, the zipper halfway down. Bare skin caught the light pale against the fabric. Her hair fell in loose waves over her shoulders. Her feet were bare on the polished wood. She turned at the sound of the door. Their eyes met. Ethan's hand stayed on the handle. His brain registered the image in pieces, the shape of her, the line of her collarbone, the surprised widening of her eyes. It took another breath for recognition to slot into place. He had seen that face before, on a billboard over the intersection, on the cover of a magazine someone left in the break room. Victoria Hale. He did not move. He did not breathe. The room shrank until there was only the distance between them, the open door at his back, the soft whisper of the building around them. Her fingers jerked up to hold the dress closed across her chest. For a heartbeat, her expression was not outrage or command. It was something raw or older, a flash of fear that vanished almost as quickly as it appeared. "Do not come any closer," she said. Her voice was quiet, but the words were sharp enough to cut. Ethan felt his face heat. "I am sorry. I am so sorry. The work order said I thought this was a control room. I did not know anyone was in here. I can leave. A thin, piercing alarm broke through his rushed words. It started as a single note, then grew into a steady wail, bouncing off the glass and polished surfaces, turning the elegant suite into something that felt suddenly hostile. Red light pulsed in the corner, a small indicator near the ceiling. Unauthorized entry, security alert. Ethan stepped back, the door frame pressed between his shoulder blades. He lifted his hands instinctively as heavy steps sounded in the hallway. Two security officers appeared in the doorway behind him, both in dark suits with earpieces, eyes hard and already assessing. One grabbed Ethan's arm and yanked him fully into the hall. His shoulder hit the wall, the other stepped between him and the open suite, forming a barrier. "Hands where we can see them," the guard barked. Ethan's mind scrambled. The words he needed felt slippery. "I did not break in," he managed. "I have a ticket. Maintenance. Climate control. It said 5101. The guard twisted his arm higher. Pain shot up into Ethan's shoulder. His cheek pressed against the cool wall. He could smell the faint lemon scent of the cleaner they used on these floors. "In the room, Ms. Hale," the second guard called. Ethan could not see her now, but he heard the shift of air as she moved. "I am fine," she answered. Her voice had changed. It was composed, leveled out, the kind of voice that filled boardrooms and interviews. The first guard leaned close to Ethan's ear. "You picked the wrong door, buddy." "I did not pick anything," Ethan said through clenched teeth. "The system sent me. Save it." "Ms. Hale," the other guard said, "do you want us to remove him from the premises and suspend his access pending review?" There was a pause. Ethan listened to the silence as if it might decide his life. He imagined Lily's drawing on her bedroom wall, the way she had pointed at the dragon, and said he kept the walls from falling down. He thought of the damp line on the siding outside her window, of overtime, of how far one mistake could reach. He waited for Victoria Hale to say yes. No. Victoria's answer arrived so quietly that for a moment no one moved. The alarm still wailed in the ceiling. Red light pulsed against the white walls. Both guards turned toward her. "No suspension," she said louder this time. "Not yet." The guard holding Ethan's arm frowned. "Ma'am, he entered your private suite without authorization. The protocol is clear." "I am aware of the protocol," Victoria replied. Her gaze shifted past them to a spot near the low wardrobe at the far side of the room. There, across the pale carpet, a thin, dark line cut through the fibers. A scratch no wider than a fingernail, but long enough to be noticeable to someone who knew every inch of this space. That mark had not been there yesterday. Her eyes moved back to Ethan. He was pinned against the hallway wall, cheek pressed to the paint hand twisted behind his back. His breathing was shallow, his jaw clenched. There was no slickness in his face, only shock and a rising panic that seemed to have nothing to do with her and everything to do with something else. Losing his job, someone waiting at home. "Take him to the main security office," she said. "Hold him there until I have reviewed the access logs and camera feeds." "Ms. Hale, protocol states." "I am the protocol on this floor," she cut in. "Do I need to repeat myself?" The hallway went very still. The guard released Ethan's arm a fraction enough to lower it from the painful angle, but not enough to let him go. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "Security office." They marched Ethan down the corridor. His boots squeaked on the polished floor. The alarm quieted behind them as someone in central control reset the alert. The suite door closed with a soft final sound. For a breath, Victoria stood alone in the center of 5101, dress clutched to her chest, pulse pounding at the base of her throat. The room felt altered, as if the air itself had shifted. She looked again at the scratch on the carpet. Someone else had been in here, not the maintenance worker. His shock had been too complete. Whoever left that mark had time to move around the room, to bend to drag something heavy enough to cut carpet fibers. Someone who knew the door would open easily. She zipped her dress in one clean motion, grabbed the blazer from the back of her chair, and crossed to the panel beside the door. Her fingers moved quickly over the touchscreen, logging her own exit from the suite. On the elevator down to the security level, she watched her reflection in the brass. Her face had returned to the version the public knew. Composed. Neutral. The only hint of what had happened was the tightness at the corners of her mouth. The doors opened to a lower floor that most executives never saw. The Security Operations Center was a darkened room, humming with machinery walls lined with monitors that showed every angle of Aurora Tower. Halls, loading docks, lobbies, elevator interiors, a pulsing grid of surveillance. 3 technicians in dark polos sat at the central console. One of them saw her and straightened in his chair so fast his headset slipped askew. "Ms. Hale," he said, "we were just reviewing the alert from your suite." "Then you are already behind," she replied. "Bring up the hallway cameras around 5101, 15 minutes before the alarm, full resolution." They scrambled to comply. One monitor filled with a view of the executive corridor. The image showed the quiet, carefully lit space she had walked through hundreds of times without really seeing. Empty. Still. "Back," she said. "Earlier." The technician scrolled. Timestamps in the corner flickered backward. 12:58, 12:53. Stop. Now play it forward. The footage rolled in real time. The hallway remained empty. No one passed in or out of frame. At 12:59:22, the feed broke. The image tore into jagged lines, then became static. White and gray snow filled the screen. The timestamp froze for a beat, then jumped ahead to 13:15. The corridor appeared again unchanged. "What happened there?" Victoria asked. The technician swallowed. "Signal interruption, ma'am. The camera dropped out for 53 seconds. "Why?" "We are still running diagnostics. It could be a power fluctuation, a hardware failure, a network hiccup. The server that handles that bank of cameras is old. We have been requesting an upgrade for months, and—" "Is there any other camera covering that section of hallway?" she interrupted. "No, ma'am. That is the only one with a direct angle on 5101. She kept her eyes on the screen. "Bring up the door access logs for my suite." More typing. Another monitor filled with columns of text. Timestamps, card IDs, access results. "Walk me through the last 2 hours," Victoria said. "At 11:49, your personal credentials used. Success. That matches when you came back from the morning meeting, I believe." The technician scrolled. At 12:23, same credentials exit logged, door closed and locked. "I left to take a call in conference room C," Victoria said. "The door locks automatically behind me." "Yes, ma'am, it did." He pointed at the line on the screen. "After that, there are no valid keycard entries recorded. No staff, no cleaning crew, not even security." "Then how was the door open when the maintenance worker arrived?" The technician hesitated. "There is an entry at 12:59 and 38 seconds, he said. His voice changed, went softer. "Door unlocked. Origin. Interior manual override." Victoria stared at the words. "Interior override." "Yes, ma'am. Someone inside the suite activated the handle from the inside. The system logged it as an occupant initiating exit. So, according to this, someone was inside my suite when the maintenance worker opened the door." "Yes, ma'am." Her mind ticked through the past hour. She had left the suite with her phone taken. The call in conference room C walked the length of the executive floor, returned only when her assistant texted about the afternoon call being confirmed. 12 minutes, perhaps 13. The door should have been locked the entire time. It was not. "What about system access?" she said. "Any unusual logins to the control software managing executive-level permissions?" The second technician, who had been quiet until now, cleared his throat. "There was one," he admitted. "About an hour before the incident. A login from a deactivated employee account. Someone used it to modify the permissions set on your suite." Victoria turned her head slowly. "Explain." The man pulled up another window. Graphs and codes scrolled past. "The account used to belong to a contractor in building systems. He left the company over a year ago. The credentials should have been purged, but they lingered in a backup. Someone found them, logged in remotely. They did not make many changes, just enough to drop the security level on your suite for a short time. That made it easier to interrupt the camera feed and open the door without it flagging immediately." "Just enough," she repeated. "They wanted the door to open. They wanted the camera blind." He nodded, eyes fixed on the screen. "Yes, ma'am." Victoria considered the scratch on the carpet again. The shoes left by the sofa. Her own back turned as she had walked to the closet to change. Someone had been in that room while she was not there. Someone had prepared the space so that when an unsuspecting worker arrived, the door would open without resistance and the camera would not see. "Where is the maintenance employee now?" she asked. "In interview room 2, the first technician said. "The guards are holding him pending your decision." "Before my decision," she said, "I want his file." The technician opened a search window and typed. A personnel profile appeared. Photo, name. Ethan Brooks, maintenance technician, vertical transport and systems support. She read quickly. Hire date, 7 years ago. No disciplinary actions. Performance reviews consistently quiet and positive. Notes from supervisors mentioning reliability. Early starts, late finishes. Marital status, widowed. Dependents. 1. Lily Brooks, age 7. She focused on the number for a moment. 7. Lily's favorite age, she imagined, because children that age usually believed 7 was a kind of doorway. Old enough, not little anymore. There was a line about emergency contacts. His mother, a local address. A modest neighborhood she recognized by name, all small houses and older roofs. One of the security officers from the hall stepped into the room, waited just inside the doorway. "Ms. Hale," he said, "we have him in 2. Do you want us to process the suspension paperwork now, or hold until you give the word? She did not look away from the screen. Ethan's ID photo stared back at her, slightly washed out under office lighting. There was a hesitation in his half-smile that somehow felt familiar. Has he said anything? She asked. He keeps insisting the work order sent him to 5B101, claims he thought it was some kind of equipment closet or control space. Does the work order in the system reflect that? Yes, ma'am, we checked. The ticket is valid, routed to his ID. So the system placed him there. It would seem so. A maintenance worker from the sub-basement who had spent 7 years fixing other people's broken doors. A man who looked like the kind who counted minutes to pick up his child from school, sent to walk through a door someone else had already prepared. Victoria exhaled slowly. No suspension, she said. Not yet. He does not leave the building without my authorization, but he does not lose his badge until I am done with this. The guard blinked. Ma'am, it sends a strong message if we react quickly to boundary violations. It sends a stronger message if we punish the right person, she replied. Right now, I am not convinced that person is Ethan Brooks. She closed the personnel file and straightened. Release him from the interview room, she said. Escort him out through employee exits. Tell him he is off the floor for the rest of the day but still employed. Tomorrow morning he will come to my office at 10. I will speak to him myself. The guard nodded. Yes, ma'am. When he had gone, the security center hummed again with quiet activity. Screens flickered. Cameras watched. Victoria stood for another moment in front of the monitor that showed the executive hallway. The static burst bloomed again as the footage replayed on a loop, then vanished, leaving an empty corridor. Out in the maze of lower-level rooms, a man who was never meant to step onto the executive floor was being led back to the world he knew. Somewhere in a small house with a sagging porch, a child was drawing castles and dragons, believing her father kept the walls from falling down. Victoria turned away from the screen and walked toward the elevator, the sound of the building rising around her. The next morning, Ethan spent the first hour of his shift pretending to fix something that was not broken. A junction box lay open on his workbench, wires neatly arranged. His hands moved, checking connections, tightening screws that did not need tightening. The work gave his fingers something to do while his mind ran circles. He kept glancing at the digital clock mounted near the door. At 9:12, he told himself he still had time. At 9:26, he stopped pretending. He wiped his hands on a rag that already carried half the tower's history in grease stains and pulled out his phone. The signal in the sub-basement was never good, but it found a bar for the one call that mattered. His mother answered on the second ring. You are supposed to be working, she said. I am, he replied. Kind of. Kind of does not pay the rent. Can you pick up Lily from school today, just in case I am late? There was a pause. He did not fill it. Just in case, his mother repeated. What happened? Nothing yet. He chose his words carefully. I just have a meeting. His mother made a soft clicking sound with her tongue. Meetings are for people with desks. This one is upstairs. Another pause. Do I need to worry? She asked. No. He lied because he did not know. I will call you after. He hung up, slid the phone into his pocket, and stared at the open junction box. Ray appeared in the doorway holding a clipboard. You look like a man on his way to confession, Ray said. Something like that, Ethan answered. They got you running to another emergency already. You could say that. Ray frowned. You all right, Brooks? Ethan closed the junction box, snapped the screws into place, and grabbed his toolkit. I will let you know, he said. He swiped his badge at the executive elevator at 9:57. The doors opened after a small delay, as if the machine itself was surprised to see him there. The ride up felt longer this time, even though the numbers climbed at the same steady pace. The small display ticked past 20, 30, 40. His reflection watched him from the brushed metal walls, pale under the fluorescent light. When the doors parted at 51, the same soft quiet wrapped around him. The carpet still swallowed sound. The air still smelled faintly of coffee and polished wood. This time someone was waiting. A young woman in a gray suit stood near the elevators, a tablet in her hand, dark hair pulled into a sleek low ponytail. Her badge read Emma Chen, Executive Assistant. Ethan Brooks, she said, checking the tablet. That is me. Ms. Hale is ready for you. Emma's tone was neutral, but not unfriendly. Right this way. As they walked down the corridor, Ethan tried not to remember how it felt to be pushed against this same wall, the alarm screeching over his head. The hallway was quiet now. No alarms, no red lights, only the faint hum of air and the whisper of footsteps. Emma stopped in front of a pair of tall glass doors at the end of the hall. Frosted panels framed a clear center, and beyond it light spilled over the edge of a polished desk. She knocked once, then opened the door and stepped aside. "Ms. Hale," she said, "Mr. Brooks is here." "Send him in," Victoria replied. Emma gave Ethan a quick, unreadable look. "Good luck," she murmured under her breath before withdrawing and letting the door close behind him. Victoria Hale sat behind a wide desk of dark wood, the windows at her back flooding the room with gray daylight. Seattle lay beyond them, a patchwork of roofs and streets and water. From this height, even the harbor cranes looked small. She wore a charcoal suit jacket over a white blouse collar, neat cuffs buttoned. Her hair was pulled back, not as severe as the billboard image, but close enough to belong to the same woman. There were no photographs on the desk, no family portraits, no awards, only a sleek monitor, a legal pad with a few notes in fine handwriting, and a glass of water that had not been touched. "Mr. Brooks," she said, "please sit." There were 2 chairs facing her desk. Ethan chose the one on the right and lowered himself into it carefully, as if it might decide at any moment that he did not belong in it. His hands found the armrests and held on. For a moment, Victoria did not speak. She studied him, her eyes moving over his face, his work shirt, the tools he had clipped at his belt. Not judgmental, just taking inventory. "I appreciate you coming up," she said at last. "I was told I did not have a choice," he answered before he could stop himself. One corner of her mouth lifted a fraction. True. The hint of expression vanished as quickly as it came. "I have watched the security footage, read the access logs, and spoken with my team," she continued. "I would like to hear your version, from the beginning, in your own words." Ethan swallowed. His throat felt dry. The glass of water on her desk sat within reach, but he did not dare ask. "The work order came in at about 8:30, he began. "Supervisor showed it to me. Suite 5E101, climate panel error, high priority. I asked if it was a mistake because we do not get called to executive, but he said it came from the system, and if I did not want to argue with upstairs, I should take it." "You saw the ticket yourself," Victoria said. "Yes." "You confirmed the room number?" "Yes." "Did you question it?" "In my head," he said, not out loud. Her eyes stayed on him. He continued. "I took the elevator up, checked the tablet again in the hall. It showed 5E101 at the end of the corridor. I walked there, knocked, twice. No one answered. I thought maybe it was a utility room. There are panels in odd places sometimes." "You did not know it was my private suite?" "No," Ethan said quickly. "I swear I did not. I have seen your picture, on magazines, on the screen in the lobby sometimes. But I did not know which door was yours. There are no nameplates, just numbers." She glanced briefly at the far wall of the office where the door to the inner lounge and closet sat closed and unmarked, then back at him. "What happened next?" she asked. "I tried the handle," he said. "It turned. It should not have been that easy. I know that now, but it moved. The door opened. I stepped in and saw you and I froze. I could not move. My brain knew I should back out, but my body did not get the memo." He felt his face flush again at the memory. "I started to apologize. I tried to explain, but then the alarm went off and security was there, and I was on the wall before I could say much more." Victoria's hands rested palms down on the desk. Her fingers did not drum or fidget. "You did not attempt to enter further into the suite," she said. "I did not take a step past the threshold," he answered. "If there are footprints to prove otherwise, they are not mine." The corner of her mouth almost twitched again. "There are no footprints," she said. "Not yours, anyway." He hesitated. "Are you asking if I am some kind of creep who wanted to walk in on you? Because I am not." "I know," she said. The certainty in her tone startled him. "You do. I have spent 15 years sitting across tables from people who want something from me," she said. "I know the way liars look at me. It is a particular glaze, a rehearsed smoothness. You do not have it." Ethan shifted in his chair. "I swear on my daughter's life, Ms. Hale, I did not know that was your suite. I did not know you were there. I did not even know I was allowed to breathe on this floor without written permission." Her gaze flicked up at the mention of his daughter. "Lily," she said. 7. He blinked. "You saw my file." "Of course I did." There was no apology in her voice, but there was no sharpness either. Just fact. She leaned back slightly. "The door to 5E101 was open from the inside," she said. 20 seconds before you tried the handle. There was no card swipe, no key entered. Someone already inside the room engaged the manual release. At the same time, the camera in the hallway experienced a convenient failure. Ethan let the information sink in. "So, someone was in there before me," he said slowly. "They opened the door from the inside, then left. Or They wanted the door to look open when you arrived, she replied. Either way, you did not force it. The system also shows an unauthorized login to our access control software an hour before. A long deactivated account was used to lower the security level on my suite enough to make interference easier. He stared at her. The pieces started to arrange themselves into an ugly shape. You are saying this was not an accident, Ethan said. No, Victoria answered. It was not. They set me up, he said. They set you up too. Yes. For a moment, there was only the muted hum of the air system and the distant city outside the glass. Why me? He asked. It slipped out before he could stop it. I mean, why pick a guy from the basement to walk into your room? Because you are invisible to most people on this floor, she said. You have access to systems without the social access. You are the perfect scapegoat. Low risk, easy to blame, easy to remove. He thought of the guard's hand on his arm, of the ease with which they had talked about permanent suspension in the hallway, as if erasing 7 years was nothing more than a line item. I did not even know you changed clothes up here, he said, that you used that room for that. You were not meant to know, Victoria replied. Someone else did. Someone who has watched my schedule closely enough to know that I leave my office at certain times, that I prefer to change before evening meetings rather than go home. Her expression tightened for a heartbeat, then smoothed. They wanted me exposed, she said. Literally, figuratively, take your pick. They wanted you in the wrong place at the wrong time. They wanted the story to write itself. Ethan sat very still. So what happens now? He asked quietly. Now, she said, I stop them from writing the story they want. She reached for a folder that had been lying to one side unopened. She slid it toward him. Inside, he could see printed schematics of the building's upper floors, lines and shapes he recognized better than most. I need someone on this level who understands our infrastructure, Victoria said. Someone who is not woven into the social web up here. Someone who was not in the room when access control credentials were handed out over cocktails. His eyes lifted from the papers to her face. You want me up here, he said, on purpose. On a temporary basis, she replied. We will call it a dedicated assignment. Executive Systems Liaison. You will monitor the hardware audit access logs, verify that what the software says matches what is actually happening. You will report directly to me. He looked down at his work shirt, at the scuffed boots planted in carpet that probably cost more than his rent. There are other techs, he said, ones who wear nicer shoes. And sometimes people with nicer shoes are the problem, Victoria answered. I have no reason to trust anyone on this floor with my security right now. I have one reason to trust you. You froze when you could have tried to use what you saw. He shook his head. I did not even think that far ahead. Exactly. He hesitated. The offer was not small. Being this close to the top of the tower came with its own kind of air. I have a daughter, he said. You know that. I do not have anyone else except my mother, and her health is not the best. If this job means longer hours, late nights, I cannot always count on someone to grab Lily from school. Sometimes I need to be the one who leaves on time. You are worried I will expect you to stay until midnight every night, Victoria said. In my experience, people up here forget that other people have lives. The words came out sharper than he intended. He waited for the reprimand. Instead, Victoria's gaze softened a fraction. Bring her, she said. He blinked. What? If your mother cannot watch Lily and you have to work late, bring your daughter here, Victoria said. She can stay in one of the conference rooms with a tablet or crayons. Security will clear her name. As long as she stays within approved areas, it is fine. You want my 7-year-old hanging around the executive floor. I want you focused, she said. You cannot be focused if you are worried about who is waiting outside a school gate. We will make arrangements. He searched her face for any sign that she was joking. There was none. You are telling me I keep my job, he said slowly, and you want to move me closer to the people who tried to use me as a pawn. Yes, she replied, because pawns become troublesome when they understand the board. Ethan let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. Do I have a choice? He asked. You always have a choice, she said. You can stay in the sub-basement, pretend none of this touches you, and hope whoever did this finds a different game piece next time, or you can say yes. He thought of the maintenance bays, the humming machinery, the comfort of work that did not look too far above his head. He thought of red lights blinking in executive corridors, of cameras going blind, of doors that opened on their own. He thought of Lily drawing castles with towers that reached into clouds, telling him he was a dragon that kept walls from falling. All right, he said, I will do it. Victoria nodded once, as if the decision had been inevitable from the start. Good, she said. We will finalize the details with HR, but for now, you report to this floor starting tomorrow. I will have someone from security brief you on our system's access." Ethan rose, then hesitated. "Ms. Hale," he said. "Victoria." Her name felt strange in his mouth, but she did not correct him. "Yes, whoever did this," he said. "They are not just poking at your cameras, they are poking at you." "I am aware," she said. He met her eyes. The city lay behind her, blurred by glass and distance. "Then I guess we both have reasons to be here," he said. She held his gaze for a moment longer, something unreadable passing through her expression. "Go back to your floor, Mr. Brooks," she said. "Enjoy the rest of today while people still forget your name when they walk past you. Tomorrow that changes." On his first morning as something other than a man from the basement, Ethan arrived 20 minutes early. The security office on the executive level felt different from the main operations room below. Smaller, quieter, with fewer monitors but higher resolution. Dark walls. A single long console where 2 guards in shirt sleeves watched a row of screens that showed nothing more dramatic than empty hallways and a lobby breakfast cart. The man who greeted him introduced himself as Caleb. Early 40s, close-cut hair, a posture that suggested former military. "You must be the elevator guy," Caleb said. "Ethan," he replied. "I also fix other things." Caleb cracked a small smile, and handed him a badge on a lanyard. "New access," he said. "Executive floors, security terminals, do not lose it." The rest of the morning passed in a blur of briefings. Caleb walked him through software dashboards, log files, camera maps, colored lines, crisscross digital floor plans marking sensor locations, blind spots, secure doors. "This is your playground now," Caleb said. "You see anything that does not match what should be there, you flag it." "Anything specific I should be looking for?" Ethan asked. "Outages that do not line up with maintenance," Caleb replied. "Old credentials lighting up. Doors that claim to be closed when you know someone is inside." He did not say the word sabotage. He did not have to. By noon, Ethan's head felt full. Numbers, codes, camera labels. He missed the clean simplicity of a panel that either lit or did not. Here, a lie could hide behind a green indicator. He stepped out of the security room to clear his thoughts. The executive corridor stretched left and right, quiet as always. Through a gap in the blinds of a glass-walled conference room, he saw 3 men in suits bent over a laptop, their voices low and serious. At the far end, Victoria's office door was closed. He had not seen her since their meeting the day before. That fact should have made it easier to forget the weight of what he was doing. It did not. The afternoon was calmer. He watched logs scroll by on his assigned terminal, noting small anomalies, asking Caleb when he saw something that did not fit. Twice, he caught minor misconfigurations and flagged them, feeling a small satisfaction when Caleb grunted and corrected them. By 5, most of the offices on the floor had emptied. The lights dimmed, slightly shifting toward a softer tone. Outside, the sky deepened from flat gray to a darker shade streaked with thin clouds. Caleb pushed back from his chair and stretched. "That is enough for today," he said. "You should go home. Boss lady is still in, but she lives here." Ethan checked the time and felt a small jolt of guilt. "I told my mom I might be late," he said. "Guess I do not have an excuse now." He logged out of the terminal and headed for the elevators. As he passed Victoria's door, it opened. "Mr. Brooks," she said. He stopped. She stood there, one hand still on the handle, the other holding a stack of folders. She had taken off her jacket. The white blouse beneath had the first 2 buttons undone. A faint shadow of tiredness lined her eyes. "Yes," he said. "Do you have a moment?" she asked. "Or is someone waiting?" "My mother has Lily," he said. "They will survive without me for a bit." "Come in," she said. Her office felt different in evening light. The city beyond the glass glowed softly. Windows in other buildings blinked on, one by one small squares of yellow and white. Inside, only a desk lamp burned, casting a warm pool on the wood surface. Victoria set the folders down and gestured to the seating area near the windows rather than the chair across from her desk. "Sit," she said. He lowered himself onto the edge of a low gray sofa. She sat opposite in an armchair angled toward the glass, one knee crossed over the other. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. "You are adjusting," she said finally. "I am learning where you keep the ghosts," he replied. "Old code, dead accounts." "Find any more today?" "Nothing like the deactivated login from before," he said. "Just sloppy configurations. There is a camera on 47 that drops every time someone microwaves their lunch. I am guessing that is not intentional." Her mouth curved slightly. "Not the breach I worry about." Silence settled again, gentler this time. I asked you to stay, she said, because I owe you an explanation. You do not, he said. I do, she insisted. Yesterday when you walked into my suite, the way I reacted, that was not about you. He looked at her. The lamplight caught the edges of her face, softened the sharpness the camera liked to emphasize. I figured it was not personal, he said, at least not entirely. Her eyes shifted to the window. 3 years ago, she began. I was at an industry conference in San Francisco. Big event. Panels, keynotes, too many men in expensive suits talking about disruption. He said nothing. The only sounds were the low hum of the building and the distant rush of traffic far below. They had a shared changing room for speakers, she continued. The hotel converted a suite on the mezzanine. Racks of clothes, makeup artists, stylist chaos. Before my keynote, I went up to change. Her hands rested on the arms of the chair, fingers curling slightly as she spoke. A colleague followed me, she said. Another CEO, older than me, friendly, the kind of man people call charming. The word tasted bitter in her mouth. He closed the door behind him. At first he made small talk, jokes about panels. Then he started talking about how much he had done for my company, introductions he had made, deals he had smoothed, how I owed him. The air in the room seemed to tighten around them. He took my wrist, she said. Not hard at first, just enough that I knew it was not a joke, then harder when I tried to step away. Her gaze stayed on the city, but her eyes were not really seeing the streets. He never said the word, she went on. He did not have to. It was in his hand, in the way he blocked the door with his body, in the way his voice stayed calm while mine did not. Ethan's hands curled unconsciously into fists on his knees. Someone knocked on the door, she said. Housekeeping, I think. It startled him just enough that I could pull free. I walked out past him. On stage 20 minutes later, no one noticed my sleeve was buttoned wrong. The lamplight glinted on the glass between them and the city. She gave a small, humorless laugh. I did not report it, she said. My lawyers told me I could. They also told me what it would cost. The headlines, the whispers, the way people would suggest it was miscommunication, that I misunderstood, that I should have locked the door. I was preparing to take the company public. I chose the option that did least damage to the stock price. Ethan swallowed. His throat felt tight. And afterward, she said, rooms with closed doors became something else. A meeting room, a hotel suite, even my own office. If I heard the handle move when I was not expecting it, my body reacted before my brain. Heart racing, muscles freezing. That is what the therapists call hypervigilance. Fight, flight, or freeze. I specialize in freeze. She finally turned her head to look at him. So, when you opened that door, she said, and I was in that halfway state, the dress unzipped the shoes off my body, remembered before I did. Not the details, just the feeling, trapped, watched, taken for granted. Her eyes held his. It was not about you, she repeated. You just happened to be standing there when all of that decided to surface again. He let out a slow breath. I walked into a room I had no business entering, he said. Your reaction made sense even without all that. Knowing it now, it makes more sense. Still, she said quietly, I do not like that you were made to feel like you had done something monstrous when you were following a work order. He shifted, resting his forearms on his knees. It was not a good moment for either of us, he said. No, she agreed. She reached to the side table and picked up a manila folder. As she leaned forward, the fabric of her blouse shifted. The top edge gaped a fraction, just enough for the lamplight to catch a bloom of color on her skin near the collarbone. A bruise. Not the sick purple of a fresh impact, but the yellow-green of something a week old. The shape of it was wrong for an accident. Finger marks maybe, a hand. Ethan's eyes flicked to it, then away, but the image stayed in his mind like an after-image from a flash. Victoria straightened, smoothing the blouse collar with an unconscious motion. The touch told him she knew he had seen. She did not mention it. Neither did he. She set the folder down unopened. There was an incident about a month ago, she said after a moment. A charity gala. New York. Too much champagne floating around. A sponsor who thought a donation bought more than a logo on a brochure. Her fingers brushed her collarbone once lightly, then dropped. I got out of that room too, she said. But my nervous system did not get the memo. It still thinks a hand on my arm might mean the door will never open again. They sat with that for a long breath. I am telling you this, she said, so you understand that when my body locked up yesterday, it was not because you were in the room. It was because of who has been in other rooms. Ethan nodded slowly. I get it, he said. At least I get enough. He glanced at her collarbone again, then met her eyes. "If I ever find out who did that to you," he said, "the conference guy, the gala guy, any of them, they are going to wish I had not." It was a strange thing to say here in this polished office, one maintenance worker offering violence on behalf of a billionaire, but the words came out simple and clear. Victoria's eyes widened a fraction, then softened. "Careful, Mr. Brooks," she said. "Statements like that might make me think you actually care." He did not look away. "I do," he said. "I am not sure why yet, but I do." Something in her face shifted a hairline crack in the armor she wore up here. Not broken, just opened. "Most men in my position," she said quietly, "would have used what they saw in that suite, tried to turn it into leverage, a secret for a favor, an implied threat." "I just wanted the floor to swallow me," he replied. She almost smiled. This time it reached her eyes. "I know," she said. "I saw it." Outside, the city lights flickered small and far away. Inside the room held the quiet of two people who understood different kinds of danger. Victoria reached for the folder again, more businesslike now. "There is more work to do," she said. "Whoever used that old account to open my door is not finished. I need you sharp." "I am here," he said. "I know," she replied. For the first time since she had hired him onto this floor, the words sounded less like a statement of logistics and more like something else. The first time Ethan had to make good on Victoria's offer came on a Thursday that started unremarkable and then refused to cooperate. At 11:30, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He checked the caller ID while watching a stream of access logs crawl across the monitor. "Mom." He stepped away from the console and answered. "Hey, I am at the clinic longer than I thought," his mother said without preamble. Her breath sounded a little tight the way it did when she climbed stairs. "The doctor is behind. I will not make it to the school by 3. He pinched the bridge of his nose. "I can clock out early," he said. "If Caleb covers the terminal, I can make it." "You just got that new assignment," she reminded him. "You told me you could not play loose with hours anymore." He glanced through the glass wall into the corridor. The executive floor moved at its usual steady pace. Assistants with tablets. Voices muffled behind closed doors. "I have another option," he said, careful. "Let me handle it. Just focus on getting home." His mother grumbled something about not being made of glass. They hung up. Ethan stood for a moment with the phone still in his hand. He thought of Victoria sitting in her office the way she had said, bring her like it was the simplest thing in the world. He went back to the console. "Caleb," he said. The security officer looked up from his own screen. "Yeah, I need to pick up my daughter from school," Ethan said. "My mother is stuck at an appointment. Ms. Hale told me I could bring Lily up here if childcare fell through." Caleb studied him. "She said that?" "Yes, about a 7-year-old. Those were her exact words." Caleb scratched his jaw, then nodded slowly. "All right," he said. "Cleared dependents have to be logged. Bring her to the lobby. I will notify the desk and get her a temporary badge. She does not roam. She stays where she is told." "She is pretty good at following rules," Ethan replied. "She is still 7, Caleb said. "We will meet her in the middle." Traffic cooperated for once. Ethan arrived at the school with 5 minutes to spare. The afternoon light fell flat over the playground, kids glued to their phones while they waited. Lily spotted him and sprinted across the concrete backpack bouncing. "Dad," she said, "you are early. That means something is wrong." "Nothing is wrong," he said. "Plans just shifted." She narrowed her eyes in suspicion that did not quite hide her excitement. "Do I get to go to the tower?" she asked. "For a couple of hours," he said. "You do homework, maybe some drawing, then we go home." She slapped the air with her hand, a small victory gesture. In the car, she talked without pause about a new art project, a spelling test, a kid in her class who claimed his uncle owned a helicopter. Ethan answered when he could, but his thoughts kept running ahead, picturing Lily on the 51st floor dwarfed by glass and wood. At Aurora Tower, the guard at the front desk looked surprised when Lily hopped up to see over the counter. "This is Lily," Ethan said. Ms. Hale cleared her as a dependent visitor. The guard checked his screen, eyebrows rising as he read. "She has more access than some interns," he said. Caleb logged it. "You are good." He handed Lily a printed badge on a clip. Her name was in neat black letters. She held it like it was a trophy. "It has my name," she said. "Clip it to your shirt," Ethan told her, "and do not take it off until we leave." They rode the executive elevator together. Lily stood on her toes to watch the numbers change. "It goes so high," she whispered. "You can say you have been higher than most people," he replied. "Have you been to the very top?" she asked. "Not yet," he said. "Some doors are still not mine." The doors opened on 51. The quiet hit her first. Her steps slowed. She looked around, taking in the soft carpets, the framed art, the rows of closed doors. "It is like the hallway in a fancy hotel," she said. "Something like that," he answered. Emma appeared from around a corner, a stack of files in her arms. "You must be Lily," she said. Lily straightened, clearly pleased to be expected. "Yes," she said. "I am cleared." Emma smiled. "So I heard. There is a conference room down the hall with a very big whiteboard. Your dad said you like to draw." Lily's eyes widened. "Big how?" she asked. "Taller than you," Emma replied. "And as long as that wall." She pointed. Lily looked at Ethan, seeking confirmation that this was in fact real. "You draw on walls for a living, apparently," he said. "Come on." Conference room B sat empty, its long table polished to a dull shine. One wall was entirely whiteboard, from ankle height almost to the ceiling. Markers sat in a tray beneath, lined in a rainbow row. Lily approached it like a pilgrim at a shrine. "I can use all of it," she asked. "As long as it wipes off," Ethan said. "Stay in this room unless Emma or I come get you. If you need a bathroom, you go straight to the hall and take a left door with the sign. No adventures." "No adventures," she repeated dutifully, though her eyes were already measuring the wall. He handed her his phone. "If you need me, you press this button and call Caleb. He knows where I will be." "I thought I would call you," she said. "If I am at a security terminal, he will answer faster. It is like a superhero hotline." That earned him a grin. He left her reluctantly, listening to the squeak of the marker as she made her first bright line on the whiteboard. Back in the small security room, he tried to focus. Logs scrolled. Cameras blinked. Once he caught a glimpse of Lily through the glass of conference room B on one of the hallway monitors, a small figure waving her arms to reach higher on her imagined architecture. "Your kid drew a dragon yet?" Caleb asked without looking away from his screen. "Give her 5 minutes," Ethan said. Time moved quietly. At some point, Emma brought Lily a plastic cup of juice and a small plate of crackers. Ethan saw the interaction on the monitor, Lily talking with her hands, Emma laughing, one hand resting lightly on the doorframe. Near 6, the executive floor had thinned out. Office lights clicked off one by one. The sky outside deepened city lights, sharpening in the gloom. Ethan checked the time. "I should get her home," he said. "Go," Caleb replied. "We have eyes. I will call if Aurora decides to misbehave." Ethan walked down the corridor and opened the door to conference room B. Lily stood in front of the whiteboard, marker cap in her mouth, studying her work. The wall was covered. Towers, flags, curled lines that were obviously dragons, if you knew her mind, tiny windows and a winding road that led up to a main gate. "This is the biggest one yet," she said, pulling the cap from her teeth. "Look." He stepped inside and turned slowly, taking it in. "You have been busy," he said. "There is the main tower," she pointed with the marker. "That is where the princess works. She has a laptop and a lot of papers, and no one is allowed to bother her unless it is very important." "Sounds familiar," he said. "This one is for the knight," Lily went on, indicating a slightly shorter tower with a little balcony. "He does not wear shiny armor. He wears regular clothes so he can fix things without ripping them." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "I see. And this one," she said, pointing to a smaller turret tucked between the others, "is for the princess's best friend. Everyone needs one." He followed the line of her finger. The small tower sat in a perfect spot, half in view, half protected. "You have room for a dragon," he said. Lily tapped at the bottom corner, where a curled shape hugged the base of the walls. "He is right here. He does not breathe fire. He only scares away people who are mean." She added a small heart near the dragon's tail. "Impressive construction," a voice said from the doorway. Victoria stood there, one hand resting lightly on the doorframe. She had changed into a dark blouse and flats, her hair loosened from its tight knot. For a second, she looked more like a woman coming home from a long day than a figure from a billboard. Lily brightened. "You are the tower lady," she said. Ethan winced inwardly. "Lily." Victoria smiled more genuinely than he had seen in boardrooms. "I like that better than some titles I hear," she said. "May I come in?" "It is your tower," Lily replied as if this were obvious. Victoria stepped into the room, her heels soundless on the carpet. She walked along the whiteboard, slowly, eyes tracing the lines, the way a person reads text in a language they secretly care about. "This one is for the princess," Lily explained again unprompted. "She does important things." "I see," Victoria said. Her gaze lingered on the main tower. The lines were not perfectly straight. The flags leaned. The walls were a little too tall. It looked exactly like the way a child thought power should be big enough to be seen from anywhere. "And what about this tower?" Victoria asked, pointing to the small one tucked between. "That is for her best friend," Lily said. The princess has people who work for her, but that is not the same. No, Victoria agreed quietly. It is not. She moved further down the board. And this is the night, she said. Yes, Lily said. He fixes things. He makes sure the elevators work and that the doors open for the right people and stay closed for the wrong ones. Ethan felt heat creep up his neck. Sounds like an important job, Victoria said, glancing at him. It is, Lily said firmly. Victoria's eyes returned to the drawing. For a moment, her expression was completely unguarded. Something like longing moved through it, softened by a kind of sad amusement. It is beautiful, she said to Lily. You are a real artist. Lily beamed. Thank you, she said. I can draw you sometime. You have good hair for a princess. Ethan made a small choking sound. Victoria actually laughed, the sound light and quick, as if it had been waiting somewhere in her chest for a long time. That may be the nicest thing anyone has said to me this week, she said. Maybe someday, if your dad brings you back, you can draw me. I would like to see how I look in your castle. It has a lot of stairs, Lily warned, but there are elevators too. I would expect nothing less, Victoria replied. Outside, the last of the daylight slipped away. The conference room lights hummed softly. For a moment, the three of them stood there, a small triangle, in a big company looking at a wall full of imagined stone. On the drive home, Lily was quieter than usual. She held her sketchbook in her lap. The glow from passing streetlights slid over her face in intervals. You okay? Ethan asked. Yeah, she said. He waited. Dad, she said finally. Yeah. Is Ms. Hale lonely? The question startled him more than it should have. Why do you ask? He said. She looked at my castle the way you look at pictures of Mom, Lily said, like she remembered something that made her happy and sad at the same time. Ethan tightened his grip on the steering wheel. Maybe she is just tired, he said. Maybe, Lily replied. Her tone said she did not quite buy it. She flipped open her sketchbook and began to draw in the half-light. The scratch of pencil on paper filled the space between them. Out beyond the windshield, Aurora Tower rose against the night windows, glowing in scattered patterns. Somewhere near the top, a woman who lived among glass and numbers had stood in front of a child's version of her own world and called it beautiful. Ethan kept his eyes on the road. The image of Victoria's face in the conference room stayed with him gentler than he was used to seeing the edges softened by something that looked a lot like wanting to belong somewhere that was not a balance sheet. The storm crept in so slowly that at first no one noticed. By late afternoon, the sky over Seattle had turned a heavier shade of gray. Clouds gathered in thick layers, pressing down on the city. From the 51st floor, the horizon disappeared behind a curtain of mist. Ethan watched the change from a security monitor rather than a window. A camera on the roof feed showed rain starting as a fine spray, then building, little white streaks against the dark. You see that, Caleb said, nodding toward the screen. They said scattered showers. That is not scattered. As if on cue, a ripple of lightning flashed in the distance so bright it washed the feed in white for a second. A delayed boom followed faint through the walls. Power company love days like this, Ethan said. Lines go down, overtime for everyone. We have generators, Caleb replied. We could run this place through a small apocalypse. Ethan glanced at the status panel. Columns of green lights lined up, each one representing a backup system of fail-safe. Assuming whoever is messing with our systems keeps their hands off the wrong switches, he said. Caleb grunted. By 5:30, the rain had turned heavy. It battered the glass outside the executive office's, streaks sliding down in racing paths. Wind pressed against the building with a low, constant moan. Most of the floor had emptied. Only a handful of offices still glowed. Emma had left with a stack of folders under one arm and her umbrella snapping inside out as she stepped into the storm. Victoria remained. Ethan saw her on a hallway camera walking from her office toward conference room C with a laptop under her arm phone to her ear. Her pace was steady, her expression composed. The storm might as well have been playing on mute behind the glass. She never goes home, Ethan said. She lives 10 minutes away and is married to this place, Caleb replied. I doubt she knows what her couch looks like. Lightning cracked again, closer this time. The lights did not flicker. The building held. Ethan tried to focus on the logs. Decor 4907 opened, then closed. A cleaning crew entered the lounge on 35. Elevator B paused at 21, then continued, numbers small and constant. He did not see when the first green light on the power status panel shifted from solid to flutter, then blinked out. The whole floor felt it. The overhead fixtures dimmed in unison, then brightened, then went dark. The monitors in front of them snapped off. For a breath, the room was plunged into complete black so thick it had weight. Then the emergency lights kicked in. Thin strips along the baseboards lit up, casting a soft red glow over the hallway outside. In the security room, a single battery-powered lamp over the console flickered on. Ethan blinked, eyes struggling to adjust. "That is not good," Caleb said. "No kidding," Ethan replied. He looked at the power panel. Primary grid connection had gone red. The line to the generators should have glowed green. It was dark. "Generators did not catch," he said. "They should have taken over." Caleb punched a button on his radio. "Control, this is executive security," he said. "We have a full power failure on 51. Status on backup systems." Static answered him. The radio fizzled, then went dead. "This is not just us," Ethan said. His phone buzzed in his pocket screen, lighting his hand. Service cut in and out. He caught a glimpse of an alert about a widespread outage on the east side. Wind speeds higher than expected, lines down. He looked at the camera monitors. They stayed black, no feed. "Internal systems lost power too," he said. "Everything on this segment is down." Caleb swore under his breath. "Go check the generator room," he said. "You know those systems better than anyone." Ethan started for the door, then stopped. "Where is Ms. Hale?" he asked. Caleb frowned. "She was in C last I saw," he said. "Conference room." "Those doors lock electronically when power fails," Ethan said slowly. "Fail safe." "Fail safe for intruders," Caleb said, "not for people inside." Another flash of lightning lit the world outside the small window in the security room, bleaching the sky and the tops of other buildings. Ethan pictured conference room C, no windows, electronic lock, heavy door. A woman who had told him her body remembered every closed room with a handle between her and the hallway. "You go to generators," Caleb said. "I will check the rooms." Ethan did not move. "Brooks," Caleb said. "Send someone else," Ethan replied. "You can talk anyone through a reboot. I am faster with those locks." Caleb hesitated. He knew the logic. He also knew the look on Ethan's face. "Fine," he said. "Go, take a flashlight." Ethan grabbed the small torch from the wall and stepped out into the corridor. The red emergency strips turned the hallway into a low tunnel of color. Shadows pressed close. The usual hum of the building had gone quiet. No ventilation whisper. No distant buzz of lights. His boots made barely a sound on the carpet. He passed the closed doors of senior executives, their nameplates silver and unreadable in the dim light. At the far end, the conference rooms sat in a row. A narrow window in each door showed only darkness inside. He stopped at conference room C and listened. At first, all he heard was the muffled roar of the storm on the other side of the glass facade. Wind, rain, a low growl of thunder. Then very faintly another sound, breath. Not slow, not steady, fast, shallow. The kind of breathing that belonged inside a chest trying to decide whether to run or collapse. "Ms. Hale," he called softly. The breathing hitched, but did not form words. "It is Ethan," he said, "from security. I am right outside your door." Silence met him, stretched tight. He tried the handle. It did not budge. The electronic lock held. He clicked on the flashlight. A narrow beam cut through the gloom. He traced it along the wall until it found the small metal panel beside the door that housed the manual override. His fingers dug into the edge, pried it open. Inside, the mechanism was simple. A lever, a small indicator. He pulled. For a second, nothing happened. Then he heard the solid thunk of the lock releasing. He pushed the door open. The flashlight beam swept into the room, catching slices of table chairs, a whiteboard with ghost marks of old diagrams. The rest was darkness. He moved the light slowly. Victoria sat in the corner between the far wall and the end of the table, knees drawn up, arms wrapped around them. Her hair fell forward, hiding part of her face. She had her eyes squeezed shut, lips parted. Her chest rose and fell quickly. In the sudden flashlight circle, she flinched as if struck. "Hey," he said softly. "It is me." Her eyes opened. They were wide pupils blown, the usual cool focus nowhere in sight. She did not see him at first, not really. She saw something older from another room, another day. "I cannot," she whispered. He stepped inside and closed the door gently behind him. The red glow from the hallway stayed outside. In here, their world was only the flashlight and the storm. "I am going to come closer," he said, slow. He kept the beam aimed low away from her face so he did not blind her. He crossed the room in 4 careful steps and crouched in front of her. Her hands were clenched so tightly around her knees that her knuckles were white. "You are in Aurora Tower," he said. "Conference room C, 51st floor. There was a power outage, that is all." She shook her head once, a small tight motion. "The door locked," she said. The words scraped out of her. "And I opened it," he replied. "You are not trapped." Her breaths came shorter, faster. "This feels like before," she said, voice barely audible. "Same air, same dark." He set the flashlight on the floor between them, angled up just enough to bounce light off the ceiling. It softened. The shadows gave the space shape again. Without thinking it through, he reached out and set his hands on her shoulders. Her muscles were rigid under his palms. For a second, she tensed even further, as if preparing for impact. "Look at me," he said. It took a moment. When she lifted her gaze, her eyes found his face, and stayed there, as if she had been underwater, and was suddenly breaking the surface. "There you are," he said quietly. The storm outside boomed closer now. The windows in the building creaked under the force of the wind. The emergency lights in the hall flickered and held. "Match my breathing," Ethan said. "Okay, in." He inhaled slowly, exaggerating the rise of his chest. And out. He exhaled just as slowly. In. She tried to follow. The first inhale shook. The exhale came too fast. "Good," he said. Again. In, 1, 2, 3. Out, 1, 2, 3. He kept his voice low, steady, the way he used it when Lily woke from bad dreams. The same tone, different woman, different ghosts. Little by little, Victoria's breaths began to lengthen. The frantic edge dulled. Her grip on her knees loosened. Under his hands, the rigidity in her shoulders eased by degrees. "See," he said. "You are here, not there." She swallowed. "I hate this," she said, the words ragged. "I hate that my body keeps doing this when my brain knows better." "Brains take their time catching up," he said. "Sometimes they are slow learners." She let out a sound that might have been a laugh if it had not been so breathless. "This is not exactly how I planned to spend my evening," she said. "Same," he replied. "I had big plans involving frozen pizza and a science project that requires glue." She closed her eyes for a second, then opened them again. "I am not afraid of you," she said suddenly. The words hung in the dim air between them. Her gaze did not waver. "I just realized that," she went on. "I am sitting here in the dark with a man, and I am not afraid. My body is losing its mind, but none of it is about you." He felt something tight move in his chest. "I am glad to hear that," he said. "For what it is worth, I am not afraid either." "Of the dark?" she asked. "Of being this close to you," he said, "and wanting to help." Her eyes searched his as if checking for any hint of mockery. There was none. The storm filled the spaces between their breaths. He became aware that he was still holding her shoulders. He started to pull back, giving her the option, but her hands lifted and closed briefly around his wrists. Just enough to keep him where he was. "Stay," she said. So he stayed, kneeling on the hard carpet, hands steady on her, while the building moaned and crackled and the storm raged around them. Time thinned. It might have been minutes. It might have been longer. The power status was out of his control. Caleb and the systems team would be working the generators. Somewhere far below, people lit candles and cursed electric companies. In the small bubble of conference room C, two people breathed together until one of them no longer felt like she was drowning. Eventually, Victoria's shoulders sank the last few millimeters that meant her muscles had let go. Her hands loosened on his wrists. The tightness around her eyes eased. "I am sorry," she said, voice rough. "You did not sign up for this. You put me on security detail," he said. "You did not specify what kind." That pulled a faint, genuine smile from her. The emergency light outside flickered again. Somewhere in the distance, a low generator hum finally rumbled to life. Systems waking, circuits reconnecting. "You are okay," he said. "The door is open. The lights are coming back. You are not back there. You are here." "I know," she said. She looked at him a long moment. "Ethan," she said quietly. "Yeah, thank you." He nodded. The words settled inside him heavy in a way that felt right. He picked up the flashlight and stood, then offered her a hand. She took it and let him pull her to her feet. For a second they stood close in the dim room, the space between them charged with something that did not feel like fear at all. When the lights finally surged back to life, they came in pieces. First, the overhead fixtures in the hallway flickered and steadied. Then the ventilation kicked in with a low sigh, pushing fresh air through the vents. Somewhere close, an exit sign blinked from dead to bright green. In conference room C, the ceiling panels glowed once more. The flashlight beam lost its dominance, fading into the new brightness. Victoria blinked against the sudden light. Her pupils shrank. Color returned to her face, a slow wash under her skin. "Guess the generators woke up," Ethan said. Her hands slipped from his wrists. She looked around, taking in the ordinary room. The unremarkable table, the dry erase markers lined up in their tray. The terror that had filled the space moments ago seemed to retreat into the corners. She straightened her blouse, smoothing the fabric with automatic gestures, then reached down and picked up her laptop from where it had fallen. "If anyone asks," she said, her voice still a little rough, "tell them I was in a meeting." "Technically true," he said. Her mouth twitched. They walked out together. The corridor hummed again, electronics waking up. A few overhead fixtures still blinked as they reset, casting the floor in uneven patches of light. Caleb met them halfway, phone in hand, radio clipped to his shoulder. "Backup is live," he reported. "Main grid still out, but we are stable. You are all right, Ms. Hale?" "I am fine," Victoria said. "Thank you." His eyes moved to Ethan, questioning. Ethan gave the smallest of nods. "Good," Caleb said. He looked at both of them for a second longer, then stepped aside. "We will log the failure. You might want to review access logs for the generator control just to make sure this was weather and not something clever." "Already planning on it," Ethan said. Victoria glanced at him, something like approval flickering in her expression. "Mr. Brooks," she said, "walk me to my office." It was not really a question. He fell into step beside her. Her heels made soft clicks on the floor. Outside the glass skin of the tower, the storm still threw rain against the windows, but inside the building had its order back. At her door, she paused with her hand on the handle. "I am not going to pretend that did not happen," she said quietly, "but I am also not letting whoever is watching this place turn it into something it was not." "Someone watching the cameras?" he asked. "Someone watching me," she replied. "Cameras are just one way they do it." He nodded once. "You know where to find me?" he said. "I do," she answered. He turned away, feeling her gaze on his back as he walked toward the elevator. The next day, Victoria did something that took more effort than facing a boardroom. She pressed the button for B2. The elevator ride down felt strangely long. She watched the floor numbers drop one after another, retreating from the glass and marble world she knew into concrete and metal. When the doors opened, the air changed, cooler with a taste of dust and machine oil. The hum of heavy equipment replaced the soft rush of climate control. Pipes ran in neat lines along the ceiling. Cables hugged the walls. A few technicians glanced up as she stepped out, then quickly pretended to focus on their tasks. Word traveled fast in buildings like this. The CEO in the basement was not a normal sight. Ethan stood at a workbench, tool in hand, leaning over a half-opened panel. At the sound of the elevator, he straightened and turned. For a second, surprise crossed his face. Then he wiped his hand on a rag and set the tool down. "Ms. Hale," he said, "you are lost." "I am exactly where I intended to be," she replied. Caleb had warned him she might come down, but hearing it and seeing it were different things. Victoria looked smaller somehow, without the framed skyline behind her, but also more solid, less like a picture, more like a person who claimed space by standing still. Conversations in the background lowered. Someone dropped a wrench with a clank, then scrambled to pick it up. "I wanted to thank you," she said. "You already did," he replied. "In the room." "That was grateful panic," she said. "This is the version where I am breathing normally." He smiled just a little. "Breathing is good," he said. Her gaze flicked briefly across the room, taking in the cabinets, the racks of parts, the low desks with old office chairs. A different kind of control center. "When the power went out," she said, "my first thought was not the stock price or the servers. It was that door, and then you opened it." "I was closer to you than to the generator room," he said. "Caleb will forgive me for the detour. He can add it to your performance review." Her tone was light, but the weight beneath it was not. She took a small step closer, lowering her voice a fraction. "Everyone who knows about the other nights," she said, "the conference, the gala, the ways things went wrong, they look at me differently afterward. Softer, like I am glass, or harder, like I was careless." Ethan listened. "You did not look at me like that," she said. "In that room, or now. I looked at you like someone who needed a door opened," he said. "Then a second door, inside your head." She gave a quick exhale that almost counted as a laugh. "You are surprisingly poetic for someone who spends his life with wires," she said. "Do not let that get around," he replied. "I have a reputation." Movement at the far end of the room caught his attention. Lily came trotting in, trailing a step behind his mother. The older woman had a grocery bag in one hand and an apologetic expression on her face. "She insisted," his mother said. "She wanted to see where you work." Lily slowed as she saw Victoria. Her eyes went wide. "Oh," she said softly. "Hi." Ethan felt a twinge of panic. "Lily, this is Ms. Hale," he said. "She runs the place." "You are the tower lady," Lily said again, then seemed to realize she had said it out loud. "Sorry." Victoria smiled. "I have been called worse," she said. "It is nice to meet you, Lily." Lily shifted her weight from foot to foot, suddenly shy. She held her sketchbook against her chest like a shield. Her foot caught on a coil of cable snaking across the floor. It slid under her sneaker. She tipped forward with a small gasp, arms flailing. Victoria moved before Ethan could. In one smooth motion, she stepped in, caught Lily around the waist, and lifted her away from the fall. The sketchbook flew from Lily's hands, pages fanning out, then landed with a soft slap on the concrete. "Careful," Victoria said, voice low. "Castles take time, so do the people building them." Lily clung to her small arms, wrapping around Victoria's neck. Her heart thudded against Victoria's collarbone, a fast rhythm, slowing as the shock passed. "I am okay," Lily said quickly, more embarrassed than hurt. "I can see that," Victoria said. "Still, we prefer no broken bones in the basement." Ethan crossed to them, his chest tight with the afterimage of what might have happened. "Thank you," he said. Victoria shifted Lily easily to one hip. The movement practiced, though Ethan knew she had no children of her own. For a moment, the sight of her like that holding his daughter made something in him ache. "No problem," she said. Lily did not let go right away. She looked at Victoria from inches away, studying her face with the blunt curiosity children had. "You smell like fancy soap," she announced. Victoria blinked, then laughed. "I will take that as a compliment," she said. "It is," Lily replied. She relaxed her grip and allowed Ethan to take her. He set her back on her feet but kept a hand on her shoulder. His mother hovered nearby, caught between deference to the woman who owned the building and protectiveness over her son and granddaughter. "We should get out of your way," she said to Victoria. "He has wires to fix." "Your son has already fixed more than that," Victoria answered, and there was no trace of corporate distance in her voice. Ethan's mother looked from one to the other, a small frown creasing her forehead, as if she sensed currents she did not yet understand. "I have to get back upstairs," Victoria said. "Apparently blackouts give everyone opinions." She glanced at Ethan. "Thank you," she repeated so quietly that only he heard. He nodded. She took the elevator up. The doors closed, sealing her away from the concrete and pipes. 3 weeks later, the photograph appeared. It arrived on crisp paper, slipped into a leather folder that bore the company logo embossed in silver. The folder sat in front of every chair in the boardroom, along with printed agendas and quarterly reports. Aurora Tower's boardroom on the 52nd floor was all clean lines and expensive restraint. A long table of dark wood, high-backed chairs. The far wall was glass, but thick curtains had been drawn against the glare, turning the room into a controlled cocoon. Victoria sat at the head of the table, posture straight, hands resting lightly on the arms of her chair. Around her, the board members paged through their packets, murmuring quietly. She did not see the photograph right away. Her attention was on a graph about market share, the numbers familiar from last night's prep. It was Charles Mercer who broke the rhythm. The vice chair cleared his throat in that deliberate way that meant he intended to be heard. He was a man in his 60s with perfect silver hair and a tie knot that never seemed to shift. His expression wore its usual blend of concern and self-satisfaction. "Before we proceed to the revenue section," he said, "I think there is an item we need to address." Several heads turned, paper rustled. Mercer lifted the top sheet in his folder and held up what lay beneath. The overhead light caught at a glossy rectangle that flashed once before settling. A photograph. Victoria felt her stomach drop even before her eyes focused. The image was grainy, shot in low light, slightly off-center. It showed conference room C from near the doorway. The overhead lights were off. The only illumination came from a flashlight on the floor, casting a strange theatrical glow upward. In that light, 2 figures were visible. Ethan kneeling on the carpet, his hands on Victoria's shoulders. His face half in shadow, expression intent. Victoria sitting against the wall, knees drawn up, turned toward him. Her hair had fallen forward. Her features were soft, unguarded, pressed close enough to him that the space between them barely existed. Without context, it looked like an embrace. Mercer turned the photograph so she could see it clearly. "This came to my attention this morning," he said, along with identical copies sent anonymously to several members of the board. Around the table, papers flipped, as others found their own versions of the image. "This appears to show our CEO in a compromising position with a member of the maintenance staff," Mercer continued. His tone was mild, his eyes were not. "Given how carefully we manage reputation, I felt it best to discuss this as a group." A vein in Victoria's neck pulsed once. She looked at the photograph again, forcing herself not to look away. Whoever had taken it had chosen the angle carefully. You could not see her face clearly. You could not see the panic that had twisted her chest before Ethan's voice cut through it. You could not hear the storm or the hum of the generator failing to start. You could only see skin and proximity. "Where did you get this?" she asked. "It was sent from an unlisted email address," Mercer said. "No signature, no message beyond the image itself." He spread his hands in a gesture that feigned regret. "In another context, Ms. Hale, perhaps we would not concern ourselves," he went on. "But given recent scrutiny of corporate conduct and power dynamics, I think we have to consider what a photo like this would look like in the press." He let the sentence hang uncompleted. Other board members shifted in their seats, some uncomfortable, some openly curious. Victoria felt their eyes on her. She thought of Ethan downstairs in front of a monitor, believing that whatever fallout came from that night would land mostly on her. She thought of the lock on the conference room door clicking shut when the power died, of her own chest-tightening lungs refusing to obey, of Ethan pulling the panel open and the door with it. Someone had been close enough to that moment to lift a phone frame, the shot, press the button. They had watched and chosen to capture an image instead of help. She closed the folder in front of her, covering the printed agenda. "I will explain," she said. "I will explain," she said. Her voice was level, too level. It cut clean through the low murmur that had begun to rise around the table. Mercer inclined his head, a gesture that pretended deference. "We are listening," he said. Victoria let the photograph lie where it was, face up on the polished wood. If she turned it over, it would feel like hiding. She folded her hands loosely in front of her, instead fingers intertwined so they would not tap. 3 years ago, she began. At an industry conference in San Francisco, a fellow CEO followed me into a shared changing room. He closed the door behind him. He took my wrist and informed me that I owed him in his mind for introductions and deals. A faint shift went around the room. Some of the older men looked down at their papers. One woman at the far end of the table watched her more closely. "He did not complete what he intended," she said. "Someone knocked. I walked out. I went on stage 20 minutes later. No one saw anything except a keynote that ended exactly on time." Her voice did not crack. She kept it steady on purpose. "I did not file a formal complaint," she went on. "I was advised that the cost to the company and the offering we were preparing would be significant. I decided at that time to prioritize shareholder value over my own comfort." Someone exhaled softly. It might have been the general counsel. Victoria did not look. "Since then," she said, "closed rooms and unexpected movements at doors have had a particular effect on me. My nervous system reacts before the rest of me. The medical term is hypervigilance. There are others. Panic response, trauma, none of them look good on a prospectus." She let that sit. The sound of rain against the glass seeped faintly through the drawn curtains. 3 weeks ago," she continued, "during the storm that took out half the East Side grid, I was in conference room C when the power failed. The electronic locks engaged automatically. I was alone. It went dark. The door would not open." She nodded once toward the photograph. "The man in that image is Ethan Brooks," she said, "a maintenance technician who has worked in this building for 7 years. When the primary power and internal backups both failed on this floor, he left the generator check to someone else and came to that room instead, because he knew exactly what a locked door in the dark would do to me." Mercer lifted his brows. "I was not aware your condition was that severe," he said. "That is because I did not make it a bullet point on my resume," she replied. A few of the directors shifted uncomfortable. "Mr. Brooks manually released the lock," she said. "He opened the door. He came into the room. I was in the middle of a panic attack. He talked me through it. He kept his hands on my shoulders because at that moment, that contact was the only thing in the room that felt real." She tapped the photograph once with her fingertip. "This image does not show that," she said. "It does not capture the storm or the sound of the building under stress or the way the emergency lights failed before the backup finally engaged. It captures a fraction of a second. It makes that second look like something illicit." She let her hand fall back to the table. "The man in that photograph," she said, "did nothing inappropriate. He did his job in a way no policy could have predicted. He kept the CEO of this company from having a breakdown locked in a dark conference room. If this board chooses to punish him for that, you will receive my resignation within the hour." The room went still. Mercer opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. "Victoria," he said, and now some of the practiced polish had left his voice. "No one here is asking you to resign. We simply need to consider the optics." "Then consider all of them," she said. "Not just the angle someone chose when they decided to take a photograph instead of opening a door." She turned her attention to the general counsel. "I also want to know who took this image and how they were in a position to do so," she said. "We have clear policies about surveillance on this floor. Shadow recording is not part of our security charter." We can trace the internal source, the counsel replied. The email trail at least. It may take time. Start now, she said. Whoever did this has been monitoring my movements without authorization. That is not only a violation of internal policy, it is a security breach. I expect a full report. She looked around the table, meeting eyes one by one. Some glanced away. Some held her gaze and gave the slightest of nods. In addition, she said, when this image does not become a scandal because we chose to handle it with facts rather than paranoia, I expect a formal apology issued to Mr. Brooks, in writing, signed by this board. His reputation has been put at risk by someone who did not see fit to risk their own name. Mercer cleared his throat. You are asking a lot, he said. I am asking for corrective action, she replied, including a promotion. That drew a few surprised looks. A promotion, Mercer repeated. Mr. Brooks has been acting as de facto security infrastructure lead for the executive floors since the day someone used a dead account to open my suite, she said. He found gaps your favored consultants missed. He has done the work without the title. I am recommending that title be made official, head of security infrastructure executive levels. Appropriate compensation, appropriate authority. Silence followed, a different kind this time. Calculations moved behind eyes. Lines on resumes were imagined weighed. Victoria, one of the older board members, said slowly, if we approve this, there will be questions from outside about why a man with his background is elevated so quickly. We will answer them by saying we value competence and integrity, she replied. If anyone wants to know why, they can read the apology. She sat back, the line of her shoulders firm. We can vote now, she said, or after revenue, your choice. But I will not move this meeting forward as if that photograph did not land on this table. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the woman at the end of the table, a former regulator with an unshakable reputation, cleared her throat. I move we accept Ms. Hale's recommendation, she said, on all points. Apology, investigation, promotion. A second voice followed, then a third. Mercer looked around, realized he was outnumbered, and forced a smile that did not reach his eyes. Very well, he said. Let the minutes reflect the motion and the vote. The motion passed. Later, after the meeting dissolved, and the board members peeled away in groups of 2 and 3 voices, the photograph lay forgotten at Victoria's place. She picked it up, looked at it one last time, then slid it into her folder. She did not tear it in half. She did not keep it out. She put it in the same pocket as the notes on revenue and projections and walked out. The rain had stopped by the time evening settled around the tower. The streets below gleamed under streetlights. From her office window, the city looked washed clean puddles holding pieces of neon. Victoria stood with her hands in her pockets, blazer hanging, open hair, slightly loose from the long day. The room was mostly dark, lit only by a desk lamp and the glow from outside. There was a soft knock on her door. Come in, she said. Ethan stepped inside, stopping just beyond the threshold. He wore the same work shirt, but his badge now had an extra line under his name. Security Infrastructure Lead. I heard, he said, about the meeting. News travels fast, she replied. People talk in break rooms, he said, and elevators. He moved closer, leaving the door half open behind him. He did not drop into a chair. He stood a few feet away as if uncertain how close this new title allowed him. You did not have to do that, he said. Tell them what you did. Use that to defend me. I did have to, she answered. They were preparing to crucify you for being decent to me. I am not in the habit of letting good people take hits meant for me. I chose to stay in that room, he said. I chose to come up to this floor. I knew it put me where things get complicated. Complicated is one word for it, she said. He looked at her for a long second. The city lights reflected in the glass behind her, small and broken. You also did not have to push for the promotion, he said. I was doing the job anyway. That is exactly why you should have the title, she replied. I prefer people who are already doing a thing before they get a plaque for it. He huffed a quiet breath that might have been a laugh. My mother cried, he said, when I told her. I think she thought you dragged me into your world to fire me in a more elegant setting. She is welcome to call me if she has complaints, Victoria said. He smiled. Do not tempt her. Silence settled, but it was not empty. It held the weight of the day and of everything they did not say explicitly. Victoria turned back to the window for a moment, then faced him again. Tell me I did not make a mistake, she said. In what? He asked. Trusting you, she answered, dragging you into the parts of this building where the knives are sharper. He stepped closer, closing the last of the space without crowding her. From here, he could see the faint edge of the bruise near her collarbone, almost gone, now yellowed at the edges. "You did not make a mistake," he said. "You trusted the right person." He held her gaze as he spoke, steady and uncomplicated. For a moment, she let herself believe him fully. She nodded just once. "Good," she said. He took a breath, then another. "That night in the conference room," he said, "you told me you were not afraid of me. I never answered that properly." "You said you were not afraid either," she reminded him. "I meant more than that," he said. "I was not afraid of being that close to you, of wanting to protect you. That is new for me. I thought you should know." The confession sat between them, simple, not dressed in metaphor. Victoria did not step back. The city outside their window went on with its noise and light, unaware of the small realignment happening 51 floors up. 3 months had a way of softening sharp edges. By late spring, the worst of the winter storms were gone. Seattle traded gray sheets of rain for a thinner drizzle and the occasional pale strip of sunlight. Aurora Tower adjusted with the season, its glass catching different colors at different hours. On the executive floor, Ethan's nameplate changed. The badge under his photo now read, Head of Security Infrastructure Executive Levels. The title felt slightly too big, like a jacket that needed time to fit to his shoulders, but the work made sense in his hands. He spent his days between terminals and ceilings, chasing down small glitches, closing gaps in old code. Once he caught another attempt to access dormant credentials buried under layers of routine traffic. When he flagged it, Victoria's reply was a simple 3-word email. "Good catch, thank you." The board's apology arrived on company letterhead. Formal signatures lined the bottom. Ethan kept the envelope in a drawer at home, untouched. His mother framed the promotion notice instead and hung it crooked on the living room wall. Lily came to the tower more often now. Not every day, but enough that some people on 51 recognized her. Emma kept a drawer of crayons and sticky notes for her. Caleb pretended not to smile when she waved at the security cameras and said she knew where they were hiding. The whiteboard in conference room B was wiped clean between meetings, but small ghosts of castles lingered faintly beneath new charts and bullet points. One evening, after a longer than usual day of negotiations on the 52nd floor, Victoria found herself walking a route she had avoided since the first week of Ethan's assignment. The hallway outside Suite 5101 was quiet as always. The carpet gave under her heels. The air held that faint mix of coffee paper and something floral from an overachieving air freshener someone in facilities liked too much. She stopped in front of the door. The number sat in simple brushed metal, exactly as it had the day Ethan opened it by mistake. For a long time after the incident, she had taken the long way around, using a different entrance that bypassed this section entirely. Lately, she had been forcing herself to walk past it, not to go in, just to stand there, breathe, and let the memory rearrange itself. Tonight, the hallway was empty. The building hummed in the background, the sound of a tower settling into its evening. She reached out and let her fingers brush the edge of the doorframe. The wood felt smooth, faintly cool. Behind her, a door opened with a small squeak. "Thought I was the only one who liked this hallway," Ethan said. She turned. He stood in the doorway of a narrow maintenance alcove, tablet in one hand, a small tool in the other. A smudge of dust marked his cheek. His shirt sleeves were rolled to his forearms. The new badge on his lanyard caught the light. "Doing an audit on the sensor junction behind this wall," he explained, lifting the tablet slightly. "There was a tiny voltage drop in the logs. Nothing serious. It annoyed me." "Cannot have annoyed sensors," she said. "They might unionize." He smiled and stepped fully into the hall, letting the door behind him swing almost closed. "You all right?" he asked. She glanced back at the number on the door. "I was thinking," she said, "about the first day you showed up here. Hard day to forget," he replied. He moved closer, stopping at a respectful distance beside her. They stood shoulder to shoulder, looking at the same strip of wood and metal. "What were you thinking?" he asked. She took a breath. "That what shocked me that day was not that you saw me half-dressed," she said. "It was your eyes." He turned his head slightly. "My eyes," he repeated. "You did not look at me like someone who had found a weakness," she said, "or leverage. There was no calculation, no hunger, just pure stupid surprise, and then this instant concern that had nothing to do with you and everything to do with me." Most guys would have looked at the situation and thought, "Jackpot," she added dry. "You looked like you were bracing for a lightning bolt." "Felt like one," he said. "I still think about diving for the panel instead of opening my mouth." "You stood there like you wanted the floor to open and swallow you," she said. "I did," he admitted. She smiled, small but real. "In that moment," she said, I realized that you had walked into a situation where a lot of men would take something, and your only instinct was to get out and make sure I was okay. You saw me at my most exposed, and your first thought was not my body. It was the trouble I might be in. He absorbed that quietly. I saw a woman carrying more than she should have to carry, he said. That is all. It is still what I see. Her throat tightened. She swallowed it down. No one has ever looked at me like that, she said softly. Like I am both broken and not broken at the same time. Like the cracks do not cancel out the rest. They do not, he said. He did not elaborate. He did not need to. The elevator at the far end of the hall chimed. Doors opened, then closed again. Someone's shoes clicked away in another direction. Footsteps approached from the opposite end. Dad, a familiar voice called. Grandma said I can stay for dinner if you say yes. Lily rounded the corner at a jog sketchbook tucked under her arm, hair slightly frizzy from the damp outside. Ethan's mother followed at a slower pace, a scarf wound tight around her neck. Lily slowed when she saw Victoria, then broke into a wider grin. Hi, she said. We did not know you were still here. Folder ambush on 52, Victoria said. I escaped. Lily considered that, then nodded as if it made perfect sense. I drew a new castle, she said, lifting the sketchbook. It has a unicorn and a secret garden, and a door that only opens for the right people. Ambitious architecture, Victoria said. Victoria said. Ethan, his mother cut in gently. I can take her home if you are busy. Doctor said I should walk more anyway. Lily looked between them, then turned back to Ethan. Can I stay? She asked. Please, I want to show Ms. Hale the garden. There is a dragon hiding in the trees, but he is nice now. He gets to rest. Ethan opened his mouth to answer, but Victoria spoke first. How about this, she said. What if you and your dad come and have dinner with me? I know a place with very good pasta. Lily's eyes widened. Does it have dessert? She asked. It has a chocolate cake that is probably a crime, Victoria said, but no one has arrested them yet. Lily looked at Ethan seeking permission. That depends on your dad, Victoria added. Ethan studied her face. There was no boardroom mask there now, no camera smile, just a woman at the end of a long day offering something that felt suspiciously like an invitation out of the tower. Yeah, he said, we can do that. His mother lifted her hands in surrender. I will take the bus, she said. You three enjoy your cake crime. Lily bounced once on the balls of her feet. Can we walk? She asked. Or do we have to take the car? We will take the elevator first, Victoria said. Then we will see. Lily stepped closer and slipped her small hand into Victoria's without hesitation. Victoria looked down as if surprised by the warmth of that grip, then closed her fingers around it carefully. Tell me about this unicorn, she said as they started toward the elevator. What does it guard? The secret garden, Lily said. It is in the middle of the castle, but you cannot find it if you are mean. Only people who are kind and tired get to rest there. Then that sounds like our place, Victoria said. They walked together. Ethan moved on Victoria's other side, close enough that his shoulder brushed hers, once lightly. He glanced back at the door to 5101, still closed, its number catching the light. Funny, he said. For something that started with the wrong door, this feels pretty right. It was never the wrong door, Victoria said. She did not look back. Her eyes stayed on the elevator at the end of the corridor, on the small panel of light above it that showed the floor numbers counting down. It was a door opening, she said. I just did not know where it led. The elevator arrived with a soft chime. The door slid open, revealing a familiar mirrored interior. Lily tugged both of them forward. Come on, she said. The unicorn would not want us to be late. Victoria stepped inside. Ethan followed. Lily kept hold of Victoria's hand with one side and caught her father's fingers with the other, linking them in a quiet, practical loop. The doors closed. For the first time in a long time, as the car began to move, Victoria felt the motion, not as a threat or a trap or a machine she had to control, but as a simple thing that carried her down toward a night she had chosen. The numbers ticked by, 51, 50, 49. Inside the small aluminum box, there was the faint smell of rain on wool, the sound of a little girl talking about secret gardens and tired dragons, and the steady grounding presence of a man who had once opened a door at exactly the wrong moment and somehow turned it into a way out. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.